Hi, folks. Steve Urban here. Today's episode of the Riderflex podcast is sponsored by Marketing 360. My good friend JB Kellogg and his team do such a fantastic job for us and so many other companies. Marketing 360 is the number one platform for small business, and it's everything you need to grow your business. If you need marketing support, I really encourage you to contact them at marketing360.com/Riderflex, and we'll add that link to the description of this episode for easy reference. All right, here we go. Richard Hanbury on the Riderflex podcast. How you doing, Richard?
Good, thanks. Pleasure
I like that color on you, man. It looks good.
Thank you.
I like that. It looks good. I like your background. So you're in North Denver today?
Yeah, I'm in Arvada.
How did you settle there? How'd that happen?
Well, I've been in Boulder for about a year and a half, and my wife and I and my kid now live in Utah. Our company's still staying here in Lafayette, but I can't move into our new house because I'm in a wheelchair and it's not wheelchair accessible yet. So I'm in temporary accommodation while we get the new house wheelchair accessible.
I see. Why are you moving to Utah?
Wife's family and basically my wife's family's all there. Also, the real estate price is about half of what it is here.
Right. Especially
Which now that we're in the world of COVID and everyone telecommuting, kind of want to move to where you can live the best quality of life.
I just talked to somebody the other day and they just moved to Bozeman, Montana. And I said, why? And they said, well, number one, everybody works remote these days, so you can live wherever you want. And number two, we wanted less people and cheaper real estate.
Yeah. And it must be really cheap there.
I'm guessing so, right? Yeah. So you're moving pretty soon. What part of Utah, by the way?
Sandy, so south side of Salt Lake.
Okay. Beautiful area.
Yeah. I mean, mountains like this, I don't think the weather is as good as here. But
yeah. Yeah, probably not. So how long have you been married?
It's now 6 years.
Isn't it interesting how we always have to pause on that?
Well, I think it's because we're getting older. It's like I had to pause if someone says, "How old are you?" And it's the same thing. I now have to go, how old am I now?
Somebody will ask me, I just celebrated 21 years together with my wife, but usually I do pause. Usually I'm like, oh, yeah, how long have we been? Okay, and one time
we haven't had our 6th anniversary because I was in hospital with cardiac surgery, and now in the age of COVID, no one was allowed to visit. So I haven't even seen my wife since on FaceTime every day, but I haven't seen my wife in person since our 6th anniversary.
Wow. Okay. When was the surgery?
The end of February.
You look great. I mean, you're yeah.
It was a full-on open heart surgery, so it was a big deal at the time.
Wow. Okay. How old are you? You mind me asking?
I'm 48 in a month. I'm still 47. See, this is where it comes in. I have to think about how old I am. Nearly 48.
But did you, I'm just curious, was it slow, I'm kind of having chest pain and for hours and hours, or boom, it just happened?
No, it was, so in my original accident, I had an aortic tear and I bled internally.
Okay.
And that did some damage that over time built up. And then last year I did about 400,000 air miles of travel. I figured, hey, it's January. I'd better get everything done, like my checkups, before all the madness of endless travel starts again. And then they said, oh, go down to Denver for a CT scan, like now. I'm like, okay. And then they did it, and they looked at it and they said, okay, you have to have this surgery done within about the next 6 months, because it's already a point where it's dangerous.
I see.
And so I was thinking, I'll take 4 months to, get my business in order, and then do it. And then about 3 days later, my kid's au pair, who's Chinese, went back to her family for the Chinese New Year.
Okay.
And she was quarantined on the first day back in China, and she's in Guangzhou. So me and my wife got the text. My first call was to my team to say, buy parts for the next 1,000 or 2,000 devices today. And they were like, what? And I was like, we can discuss why tomorrow, but just get buying, please.
Good move. Good
Guangzhou
move.
is 2 hours from Shenzhen. And I was like, again, if my au pair is getting locked up with her
Right.
family, then every worker in Shenzhen is going to be locked up with her family.
Good move.
And then my second call was to the surgeon's office saying, when's the next possible first day that you can put me in? Because I don't think you're going to be doing surgeries in 2 or 3 months. And they put me in for the next surgery, and I went.
Gotcha. Well, tell the listeners a little bit about your earlier history, because you mentioned now wheelchair and the accident. So let's go back, and why don't you just tell them a little bit about, where you grew up, some family, and walk them into, what happened with your accident, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. So I had an army dad. So I grew up in various places in the UK, mostly in the West Country. The horses were my entire life. I wanted to be an all-horse vet.
Really?
But then I discovered when I was 16 that I would have to do 8 years post-university before I would be allowed to only practice on horses. And I didn't want to wake up. I was a teenager. I loved my sleep. I didn't want to get woken up at 2 a.m. for some cow that some farmer didn't care about because it was insurance money. Of course I'd get out of bed at 2 a.m. for, but not a cow.
Right.
I'm sure cows are lovely, but it wasn't. I was like, and
Gotcha.
dogs and cats, which most visits to the vet are because people have overfed them. I was not that interested in that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But then I discovered that I had to wait 8 years, and I was my bright idea was to go and learn Arabic, because at the time nearly all of the best racing stock, all the racehorses were owned by Middle Eastern money.
I see. That's what.
Kentucky
Okay.
was already a thing, and the Kentucky Derby was a thing.
Yeah.
But still, most of the real money was in the Middle East. So I was like, okay, I'll learn Arabic, and then I'll go do that. And that's why my undergraduate degree was Arabic, which is why I was then traveling in the Yemen.
I see.
And I was close to the capital, Sana'a, hence the company name, because the capital of Yemen is Sana'a, and in Latin also Sana means healthy.
Okay.
So it's the root of words like sane and sanatorium and sanity, and it all comes from the same root. Anyway, I was driving down a road in a Jeep, and when I was level with a petrol truck coming in the opposite direction, a car pulled out from behind it. So I had a split-second choice of a head-on collision next to a petrol truck, or to go off a bridge. In that split second, I figured we were dead either way. But if I went off, and I had this image of my dad wandering around the country trying to find some remains.
All this is happening within seconds.
Split second. Yeah, split second. Your brain goes very fast when you think you're about to die. And so I figured that if we went off the bridge, at least there'd be some remains to find. So I went off the bridge, down 60 foot into a dry riverbed. Car crumbled up like a Coke can, and us inside it, and that basically severed my spinal cord, T8, T10, so belly button level, and a torn aorta, which bled internally for 4 days. Normally, you're dead within about 30 seconds of an aortic tear.
Okay.
Sometimes people live an hour, but mine was 4 days.
Did you wake up? Did you wake up immediately, or?
Yeah, apparently I was screaming in the wreck. My travel companion said it was simultaneously the best and worst noise he'd ever heard, because it was telling him I was alive, and at the same time, it was the worst because of what it sounded like. I didn't remember anything until I was on the medevac plane, but
Okay.
just as well, because they left someone dead in the pool of their own blood next to me on the floor in the hospital. And the hospital wasn't really a hospital. It didn't have doctors, didn't have medicine, didn't even have food or water. So my passenger basically was with a cracked thigh bone and 4 other broken bones, collarbone, shoulder bone, arm in 2 places. He was walking between the local village and the hospital with food and water to force feed me.
Wow. Wow. Was this just a colleague of yours at the time, or a friend,
He
or?
was my best friend from school, who then was also learning Arabic at university. And
Wow. Wow.
he rang the insurance company and said, because we were on normal student insurance, and said, okay, you need to send a medevac plane. And they're like, we're not doing that unless we have a note from a doctor faxed to us. And he's like, well, there's no fax machine for at least 200 miles, and there's certainly no doctor either. So unless you send a plane, I'm going to change my career to law, and I'm going to make it my mission to sue your company out of existence.
Right.
And then they said, okay, well, we'll send the plane if you take responsibility for the cost if it's not needed, which was
okay.
which was like $80,000. And he was like, sure, send it.
Yeah.
So he got the plane sent. I got medevac. And then the first thing I remember was on the plane with the surgeon, with the pilot saying, we're going to have to land to refuel in either Alexandria in Egypt or Crete.
Okay.
And because I've been living in Alexandria, I knew what Egyptians are like when it comes to sort of officialdom. And I wailed and said, please don't stop in Alexandria. They'll want bribes. They won't let us fly out. I'll die before they leave. Because I knew I was right on the edge. I knew that, half an hour delay and I was toast.
I see.
Um,
You could tell. I mean, you just knew. You knew because they were telling you, or it's just a feeling you have. You just know.
You can when you're in that position, you can tell by the look of people's faces around you and how they're acting and how they're talking.
I see. Yep.
And then the doctor, who hadn't spoken to that point, said, "Don't worry, they are my friends. We will fly straight in and straight out." Not that I wasn't correct in my assessment. Just that he was going to sort it out because he knew them, and he was good to his word. We were straight in, straight out. Landed in Southampton, in Gatwick, in the south of England, medevac, and then an ambulance to Southampton, cardiac surgery, spinal injury surgery. Then I was clinically dead for 8 minutes. Came back from that. Then I was in a coma. Came back from that, and all of that resulted in a nerve damage pain problem.
Okay.
That was so severe they gave me a 5-year life expectancy.
Because the pain would get worse to where it would just break your body down or break your will down to live type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, so basically that level of pain means you're permanently in fight flight.
Okay.
So there are no repair processes that happened. Christopher Reeve is probably the most famous person who had that level of pain. He had a higher level of injury.
Okay.
But basically, when you're in that level of pain, nothing that happens to your body repairs.
I see.
I mean, realistically, I wouldn't have lasted 5 years, because if I didn't believe I could fix a problem, I would have checked out. I had no reason to. I had no wife and no kids, so I wouldn't have put up with what he put up with. Not even close.
Right. So you weren't married at the time, no kids at the time. So did you go after the surgeries, or after the initial surgeries? Did you go back with your parents, or how did that work, or where did you stay?
I was 14 months in hospital.
Okay.
And it was during that time that I got my my lucky break of my first real aha moment.
Okay.
Because they put me through the standard of care for nerve damage pain, which hasn't changed in 28 years.
Right.
It was opioids, gabapentin, other drugs, spinal stimulators, external stimulators. And then when all of that fails, they basically try to teach you meditation with the aim of suicide prevention.
Is that okay? Is that how it works? I thought it was let's just keep increasing opioids until we put you on, until we increase your dose strong enough to stop your heart and you die. I didn't know for sure.
Yeah, there is that kind of thing, but so some people on opioids build up a resistance, so it just stops working.
Okay.
And I was in that category.
I
Like
see.
by month 3, it didn't
Okay.
matter. Like if I was unconscious from morphine, then sure, I wasn't in pain, but I was unconscious. But I mean, that's really the issue around how opioids work anyway. They don't actually stop your body feeling pain. They just disconnect your consciousness from the pain that your body is actually still perceiving.
That's that's the definition of what morphine does for people in pain right there.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It
see.
doesn't not your body still is registering um, adrenaline. It's
I see.
registering low heart rate variability. It's all of the signature of you're in pain
Mm-hmm.
are still there when you're on opioids. You're just disconnecting that
I
part of the
see.
equation. So
Okay. Okay. So they were already in this teaching you how to meditate phase.
yeah, and I was like, okay, well, I got an electrical storm going on in my brain because my pain is at a 20 out of 10, and my meditation ability is 0, and you think that's going to help me? And you know, and the worst thing you can do when you're in that level of pain is, I mean, opioids take you out of your mind and out of your body. They just blank you out, which is why you have less pain.
Mm.
If you're already in that level of pain and someone gets you to be more present in your body, you feel more pain. So it's pretty stupid.
Right.
But you know, they're really trying to do it for suicide prevention. They're really trying to give you
I
some
see. I
belief
see.
that you have some control. And then basically, I watched a particular movie
Okay.
that saved my life. It was
Okay.
Hudson Hawk and
I
Bruce Willis.
remember. I remember the name of the movie, but I'm trying to remember what the plot was.
It's Bruce Willis as a cat burglar who is blackmailed into cat burglaring lots of museums to get parts to build the Da Vinci machine.
Oh, okay. That's right.
And
Now,
so it's really funny, fast-paced set pieces where they're singing songs while they're breaking and entering into museums. Like Swinging on a Star is the signature one, and really bizarre script in between times.
okay.
And for me, it was a sort of high-speed version of watching your favorite show with adverts in the middle. It was like I was in a flow state, out of it, in a flow state, out of it, in a flow state, out
Okay.
of it. And at the end of the film, I was like, holy crap, that changed my pain levels more than morphine.
Interesting.
And then I was like, huh. And the bits of the film that made me feel less pain made me feel like I used to when I was skiing. And now, of course, we all know that kind of state is a flow state. We'd all call it a flow state or
Mm.
being
Mm.
in the zone.
Okay.
But I hadn't read the Chick Mel book on flow or any of that. But it got me realizing that if I could change my state of consciousness, then I would have a method of controlling pain. And
Okay.
then the next thought was, well, if I had already been meditating all of my life, then that would be really useful right now. But I haven't been, so I can't learn. So how do I create a shortcut to what you could do if you're a long-term meditator? So I started looking at the research into how meditation changes people's brains.
Okay.
And by that time, there'd already been 50 years of Western medical research on this. And some really brilliant EEG work by a guy called Maxwell Cade, who wrote a book called The Awakened Mind.
Okay.
And in that, they showed very simple 2-channel EEGs of left hemisphere of the brain versus right hemisphere of the brain, and frequency patterns from 1 to 30. And basically, by looking at that, I was like, okay, so long-term meditators have a strong alpha state, a strong theta state, a reasonable delta state, not much beta activity, so not much higher frequency activity. But the really key thing is every single one of their EEGs, there was a balance between the left and right hemisphere. They were both identical.
Okay.
Um, and so I bought one of the EEGs that basically produced the same output that his did. tested myself. I had a massive disparity from left brain to right brain.
Really? Okay, interesting.
And
And what's the average person have? You
the
know?
I looked at about 1,500 EEGs, and I've only seen 2 that were perfectly balanced.
Okay. Okay.
One was Arsene Wenger, who was the manager of Arsenal Football Club in the UK, which is very weird because he was a professional footballer, so he bashed his head a few times, but still had a perfect balance. And the other one was Greg Ruzetsky's physio, who was a very well-renowned healer.
I
He's the
see.
kind of person that when he walks into a room, everybody just gets more relaxed. Like, so he wasn't surprising at all. He was just like, oh, well, of course, he's an epic healer. Of course he has an effect. I was massively off balance.
Okay.
And at the time, it didn't occur to me to even think, is this other people as well? Is this common for chronic pain? Is this chronic? None of that thought occurred to me. It was just like, hey, here's my brain. Here's where I need to get to. How do I get there? And the film was audiovisual stimulations, and there were some off-the-shelf audiovisual stimulation devices around that used, flashing lights and sound. And I thought, well, I can get one of those and see where I get to. And that's how the whole thing started. And then I looked at, changing patterns of what would work to get me out of pain. And the fixing that balance turned out to be the one thing that you can do with audiovisual stimulation that you can't do with electrics, you can't do it with drugs, and you can't really even do it with magnets. If you use transcranial magnetic stimulation, you can blast one side of the brain, but it has a temporary and short-term effect. So TMS so transcranial magnetic stimulation is used in clinics and does have some efficacy on things like depression and PTSD. So you will hear stories from some veterans who've had relief and help from using it, but they typically have to carry on going back to whatever clinic it was that had it.
I see. I see.
So I basically put together, 2 desktops, one pushing light and sound at me, the other one EEG, measuring EEG with everything I was doing. And little bit by little bit, I got to a pattern that the first time it worked, it not just gave me relief while I was using it, but 2 minutes afterwards. And that day I was like, okay, I'm not going to change anything else now. And I'm just going to see what happens if I carry on doing this for a bit.
And can I take a pause right there? Because I want to have a visual on this. So that's you working like on a laptop with sound and light. And what you're doing is you're getting sound and light to a certain level or whatever. And you're just focusing on it for how long?
15 minutes on average.
Okay. All right.
And so originally it was 2 desktops, one running the light and sound, one running the EEG system.
Okay.
And then I got to the stage where I was reducing my pain while I was sitting upright. And then I was going to lie down and I was stretching all the areas where the damaged nerves were. And then my pain was coming back. So then I was like, maybe I can put this into laptops, have it by my bed, get out of pain while I'm lying down. And the first night that worked. And then I was like, maybe I can change the pattern again so that it not only gets rid of the pain, but then puts me to sleep.
And you're also, I'm guessing you're also trying to figure out how to position these laptops while you're laying down so that you can hear and see the light, right? Because
they were driving a box that was on a headset.
Okay, so you had already got it to a headset at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask real quick, because I don't want you to lose your train of thought right there, but I just need to know this: was there anybody in your life at that moment saying, "What are you doing? Why are you wasting time with this? This is silly. This ain't gonna work"? Was anybody pushing on you at that point?
Actually, no.
Okay, good.
But the first time I figured out that I wanted to go somewhere and learn something about this stuff, I went to my dad and I said, "Look, I need some of my insurance money to go spend to go and learn some of this stuff."
Okay.
And his first reaction was, "No, you can't spend your insurance money." And then I said to him, well, you do realize, don't you, that unless I solve this pain problem, you're going to be supporting me for the rest of my life. And that's not going to be a very long life because I've got a 5-year life expectancy. And my dad's next response was, how much did you say that was?
Okay, all right, cool. I appreciate you sharing that. So you'd already had it to a box or a what? Now, what year was this?
This was 93.
93, and I'm trying to remember. Did we have the virtual put the thing?
This was all built off things that were clipping onto a glasses frame.
Okay, I can't remember. All right, I was trying to visualize like time frame when those came out. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, and so that took. I still didn't have any concept that that I could fix the problem. I was just at that stage still looking for a better painkiller. And then each day, the amount of time that I was pain-free after using the device got longer and longer. And at the end of 3 months, I had my first 24 hours of without nerve damage pain. And when you've been in the level of pain that you think that you're going to die for, you're going to die from it. I was my own most brutal skeptic, and I didn't want to. And I was like, okay, I've just had my first 24 hours without pain. So if this continues, when am I actually going to believe that I fixed it?
Mm-hmm.
And after a few days, I thought, you know what? If this lasts 6 months, then because I was thinking, every morning I was waking up thinking, this is the day it's going to come back. Is this the day it's going to come back?
Yeah.
And then I just put a mark in my diary for 6 months out, and then I was just thinking, if I get to that mark, then I've probably fixed it. And
now you're not thinking at this point. You're just trying to solve your own pain. You're not thinking company or patents or device. You're right now. You're just like, I'm just trying not to be in pain, man. That's it.
And it didn't occur to. So literally, it was the day that I saw the mark in the diary of, wow, the 6 month mark. It was literally that day that I was like, okay, so if I have really fixed myself, who else can I help with this?
Who else can I help? Yep.
Yeah. So that was like literally, it didn't occur to me, and I didn't have that thought once.
Yeah.
Until I believed that I'd actually fixed it for myself.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Wow. So 6 months. Okay. So then at that point, now let me ask you too, I've heard so many people that I know that have different pain situations, whatever it might be, and the general comment I hear is they will do almost anything to figure out how to stop the pain. They will just, they'll just do almost anything, right? Like they'll try anything, they'll do anything, which is why the opioid epidemic happens, right? Because people are just trying they're just trying to stop the pain. Yeah. Okay. So now you're feeling good. You're thinking you might have something here and it could help other people.
Yeah. Okay. So I then helped this friend with panic attacks. And I said, look, I'll help you, but I'll try and help you. But the one condition is you're not allowed to tell anybody because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm making this stuff up. So I helped him. It worked. It stopped his panic attacks.
Wow.
And
there's more proof. There's more proof of concept. Now you're thinking, holy shit, this. All right.
No, I mean, even before I'd fully fixed it for him, because it took a few goes. He told 3 girls that all of whom had PTSD from rape.
Oh, okay. All right. That's terrible. And now they're calling you saying, I want help.
Yeah. Well, the first one knocked on my door, and out of the 3, one was extreme PTSD, one was medium, and one was mild.
Okay.
And it was the girl with the extreme PTSD that knocked on my door first. And this is my university, bedroom basically. Anyway, she said, I said, look, this is out of my scope. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm literally making this stuff up. And she went, well, she's Catholic,
Okay.
She's like, okay, so my priest is making me feel guilty about being raped, so that's making me worse.
That's terrible.
Psychiatrist is trying to talk to me about the event, and every time she does it induces flashbacks, and every time I have a flashback, the flashbacks get worse. So that's making me more suicidal. She said I was put on Prozac, which literally makes me want to kill myself within 24 hours of going onto it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said now I'm in and out of being suicidal on a regular basis. And I mean, she basically thought through the entire emotional blackmail spiel before she came in. I don't mean
I was
spiel,
gonna.
it was her story.
By the way, how old were you at that moment?
I was 21.
21 years
Yeah.
old. You had a horrific accident, basically died, came back in a wheelchair, suffering from pain, figured out how to solve your pain, but still you're at 21. And now right after, right after you fix your own pain, you have the immediate pressure of everybody else coming to you saying, fix my pain too.
Yeah. I mean, not too many people, but just that one was the first proper one.
Wow.
Because the guy with panic attacks, I kind of offered.
Did you call him and be like, bro, I said, don't tell anybody?
Well, we were in university together. This was in the university college. So I gave him a really big scowl when it came to that dinner. But no, I mean, she said to me, she basically said, she explicitly said, your best case scenario is that you help me in any way at all.
Okay, right.
And she said, the worst case scenario is
you make me worse.
It doesn't. You make it worse, but that only means that I might commit suicide slightly quicker than I'm going to commit it without you around.
No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, that's kind of a reasonable point, and I can't send her to a psychiatrist. I can't send her to a doctor. I can't tell her to go back to her priest.
Right.
And it took 5 hours of work to remove all of the worst symptoms.
Wow.
All of the flashbacks, nightmares, cold sweats, all gone in 5 hours. And then the girl with the mild PTSD was the next one, and then the medium was the third. And that gave me proper insight into how PTSD actually works. Okay. Because the girl with the most extreme had a knife held to her throat, so she wasn't able to even think about moving. The girl with the medium was pinned down, but was able to try and struggle, but wasn't really able to move. The girl with the mild PTSD was actually in a position to actually fight back. Okay. And at the same time I was hearing the stories, I was looking at their EEGs, and the worst disparity was on the worst cases. Now you run the left-hand side of your body out of the right-hand side of your brain and vice versa. Okay. If you've got both sides of your body moving, you've got both sides of your brain have to be working in order to do that. If you're not moving at all, or you can't move, your brain has the ability to shut down one side.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
So basically, you know how everyone gets emotional when they get drunk?
Okay.
Alcohol's a poison. I love it. It's a poison. Put alcohol into your body, your body goes, okay, we don't want this poison to be running around the left-hand side of our brain. So we'll shut down the left-hand logical side of the brain, and we'll run things out of the right-hand side of the brain and let that take the hit. And that appears to be what happens with PTSD. Now, again, I have to, caveat that this was all in the UK and all entirely unregulated, and I was just doing what I'm doing.
You're just trying to help people.
Yeah, exactly. And now here in the US, we now have FDA approval as a wellness device. So we are approved for sleep and relaxation and things to do with generally improving someone's health. And we're going through clinical trials to go for FDA approval for all the other areas like PTSD.
I see. But you can buy it as a health and wellness product right now today. And can you give Sauna Health? And by the way, is the device called something besides Sauna Mask, or is that the name?
We kind of call it just the Sauna or the Sauna device.
The Sauna device. Okay. And and how do you go about, I mean, I know you can go to sauna.io, right? Is the main website. Is that correct?
That's right.
And if you want to purchase one, do you go to the website and just go to the contact us page, or what do you recommend?
You just go to the website.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've got the 3 clinical trials that we've done so far. One was was a whole different range of people with different levels of pains. So it was 75 people, Stanford Medical School students with basically no pain, special
Wow.
operations forces guys with aches and pains from being beaten around a bit,
Mm-hmm.
and then a group of people with severe chronic pain.
Mm-hmm.
And within that entire mix, we got with one use of the device compared to a placebo device, a sham device,
Okay.
we got a doubling of relaxation, tripling of pain relief, and a 5 times improvement in the high frequency component of heart rate variability. Now, heart rate variability measures the exact difference between each heartbeat. And basically, the more relaxed you are, the more your body is responding to every single little strain and stress with tiny variations in your heartbeat. So the higher that variation, the healthier and more relaxed you
I
are.
see.
So it's a very good measure of systemically how relaxed is your entire body. And then we did a clinical study on opioid use disorder,
Okay.
methadone addicts going through full cold turkey withdrawal. And during that, we got a 45% reduction in the worst point of the withdrawal process. We also got a reduction in nicotine craving, craving for opioids. Across the board, we hit the mark.
How long? And now you've been working on this now for a long time. Does it just take that long to get all the trials and the testing and raising the cash, or what has caused it to take this long to get it to market in general?
Uh, the single answer is the technology wasn't there when I first developed it to do what needed to be done. So
Okay.
the first version had EEG, plus light and sound, plus me doing a manual feedback loop. So I was looking at people's EEGs and then changing the device.
Ah,
Um, there's no at-home system with EEGs that uses wet electrodes that has
okay.
ever succeeded.
I see.
People don't like sticking wet electrodes on their head.
Okay.
They won't do it. The very best dry electrode system I've ever tested is a thing called the Muse. Their tagline is the brain sensing headband, and
Mm,
it's an awesome piece of kit for measuring and getting biofeedback on meditation.
okay.
The limitation is that with those dry electrodes, if you move, it's a problem.
Mm,
They don't tolerate movement. So
mm,
it's really awesome for meditation. And they're now coming out with a version for sleep, which I haven't managed to test yet. So maybe they fixed this. But that's last year.
okay.
Back in the 90s, there was no solution.
I
So
see.
I was one-on-one working with everyone I worked on, and you
Hmm.
can't scale a business like that.
I see. I see. Is the
Um,
Muse your closest competitor today, or even if
No,
they?
no. I mean, they're definitely at some stage they will be a collaborator
Oh,
because
okay.
they're great people and they've offered to help us multiple times.
I see.
And I'm still looking for the time when I can help them in return.
Okay.
Um, but they are really within the meditation space, and so wellness. And I tried to raise money for that, and I learned that VCs um, really don't like consumer health, and they really particularly don't like consumer sleep within that.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't. Okay. So as of today, though, the device today is, they'll see that. Matter of fact, I'm just going to do this real quick. I'm just going to
I'll
share.
show you.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, show us.
So this is the current device.
Okay.
So you're getting light through closed eyes, through those panels in front of each eye.
Okay.
We've got sound coming through headphones, so someone can plug in their own headphones, or we
Ah,
supply headphones as well.
okay.
And then we have the heart rate variability monitor, which is right on the forehead.
Mm,
So we're
mm,
picking up all the biometrics right on the forehead. And someone uses this, basically, you turn it on through an app. The app asks you pain medium sleep, you just score yourself. And then you put the device on, you lay back, you either lay down in bed or you lay in an arm, or you relax in an armchair, and then you just turn it on. And through closed eyes, you're getting pulses of light through your eyes and send into your ears. And it's starting at a relatively fast level, and then stepping down into slower frequencies. And then the average person is, so about 80% of people are asleep by the fifth use.
By the fifth use. And how many minutes do you have to use it?
15, 16.
15, 16 minutes. And is it any time of day, or is this right before bed or at bedtime?
Any time of day. So the fibromyalgia study, which was the third study, you got people with very large amounts of pain, fatigue issues, everything. And what we said to them was, use it every time before bed, as you're going to sleep, and basically then the device, either people sort of stay slightly awake and take the device off, and then it's by their bed in the morning, or the majority of people actually just let it fall off, or it ends up on the bed or on the floor.
Okay.
But that's one use. And then we told them, use any other time that any of your symptoms are too much for you to enjoy what you're doing. So fatigue, pain, depression, anxiety, if any of those are hitting you and you're not enjoying what you're doing, stop, use the device for 15 minutes, and then go back to your day. And we started with an average use of 5 times a day. That's what people were just choosing to do.
Okay.
And by 2 weeks, we'd had a 45% reduction in overall symptoms, a 49% reduction in depression, which is considerably better than Prozac. We had a 46% reduction in anxiety, again, better than Xanax, so both better than the best in their category. The overall symptoms at 45%, we were 3 times more effective than the very best drug.
Wow.
And the very best drug is Lyrica.
Oh, I see.
Which does a 15% reduction in symptoms. But even though everyone, and fibro, so a lot of people don't know much about fibromyalgia, but fibromyalgia affects there are 10 million diagnosed Americans with it. So probably another 5 or 10 million that aren't diagnosed. It's more than 80% women, and it's lifelong chronic pain with no options. And Lyrica is the best drug at 15%. Almost everyone that is actually diagnosed with fibro will actually be put on it, because it's the first drug that everyone's tried on. Only 20% carry on taking it because of how brutal the side effects are.
I see.
So we are at 3 times the efficacy with 0 side effects. And
I mean, yeah, this sounds fantastic for the people that are suffering. I mean, really outstanding results. What about, I didn't mean to cut you off right there. Go ahead. I was going to ask you a question.
So we went to the FDA with those results.
Yeah.
And the FDA said, that's great. Now can we have a larger study, please? So we're doing a 150-person study that's starting at Duke by the end of June.
Okay.
And we'll have those results in either October or November. And so we are hoping for our first FDA approval in January or February.
And if you get FDA approval, besides being able to say it's FDA approved, what else does that do for your business that you can't do right now?
It allows us to tell people, it allows us to market for fibromyalgia.
I see. Okay.
So right now, like anytime we mention fibromyalgia, pain, anxiety, depression, and we have a depression study that's going to be starting by the end of July in Aurora Mental Health in Aurora. There's also an anxiety study that we're doing. All of those things, every time we mention them, we have to make it very clear that we're not FDA cleared for them yet, and that's what we're doing the clinical trials for. So anything that is sales related, and anything that's that anybody might read or listen to that is that might prompt someone to buy, we have to be really explicit about we are cleared for sleep and relaxation.
I see. So it's a huge marketing game changer for you. What about, does it change where you can sell it?
Well, yes, because at the moment we can sell direct to consumer as a wellness device, but with FDA clearance, that means we can also go back to the insurers. We've already been talking with Anthem and Harvard Pilgrim,
Okay.
and they've been giving us really good coaching on what data they want to see and when they want to see it in order to have those discussions about reimbursement. Because ultimately, we're in America, so the worse your health is, the worse your finances typically tend to be. Not always, but it's a general rule. If your health is in a mess, it hurts your finances.
Is the huge win for you? It's FDA approved and it's also covered by your insurance. And so when the doctor diagnoses you, boom, he says you can get one of these and it's covered by your insurance. I mean, that's obvious. That's the giant home run for you right there.
Yeah, and it'll take us a while to get there.
Okay.
And that's why we're making it available as a wellness device first.
Okay.
So that we can help anybody who wants us to have a try. And that's the other thing as well, is that in the wellness space, we have the ability to say, okay, well, if you try for a month and it doesn't work, then you don't have to, you will get your money back.
I mean, plus you're building your brand, you're building awareness, you're getting reviews. I mean, all of those things are fantastic for you to do while you're waiting for the FDA approval. A quick, I know I should have booked you for 2 hours. But let me ask you this. A lot of the aspiring entrepreneurs listening, I know one of their questions has to be, okay, well, this is all fantastic. How has he funded this? How has he, paid himself all these years developing this? And, I guess from a finance perspective, how the hell did you make it this far without simply running out of cash? I mean, I know that's a lot.
No, I've run out of cash a few times.
Okay.
I did have to, I sold my house in London and used proceeds, most of which I used after we already had VC money. So I then had to go into my pocket and bail out the business, which, when I got married after that, so it's still been a bone of contention, but at the time I was free to choose to do that.
Right.
But no, it was VC money. And the two pieces of advice three pieces of advice I'd give to anybody as an aspiring entrepreneur. The first one is just don't do it. unless you really, really care about what you're doing. Like someone who goes, oh, I want to start a business, I don't know what I want to do yet. Don't even think about it. Just give up before you start it. You've got to really, really want. Otherwise, just save yourself and your family all a degree and don't bother. Only do it if you're prepared to put everything on the line, because you will. You'll have to put everything on the line.
That's really good. That is really good advice. I just want to pause you right there for a minute. That is really good advice. And for the listeners, you might just want to back up and replay that portion again. Yeah, you better be damn sure before you step through the doorway, because you'll put it all.
You will age faster. You will have more stress. You will lose your friends. You'll have a higher divorce rate.
All of it.
Just the hits go on and on.
all of it. Yep.
I'm not capable of being employed by someone else and working well. So I didn't really have a choice. And also I had, a reason to actually go do it. But the other two things are sort of slightly more nuanced. And the first of those is, as an entrepreneur, people talk a lot about MVP, minimum viable product. There is a stage before that, which, especially with anything medical, but really it's true across all startups, is if I could get people to know to use one new phrase, it would be minimum viable data. What is the next bit of data that you can get that helps either improve the credibility or de-risk the data of what you're doing? VCs and investors are all about de-risking. So you got to know what piece of information can I get, or what data can I get that is going to do the next little step of de-risking? Now, the mistake I made was I thought credibility was a bar. I thought, I'm here, credibility's here, I need to go get a big study that will get me across the bar. Wasted 2 years of my life doing that. You can't get the good scientists to do the studies. You can't get the investors to put money in. It just doesn't work. And then someone basically made me realize that credibility, and this does apply to everything, not just medical devices. Credibility is a ladder. It's not a bar. And if you can go up, if you can look ahead and go, what's the next tiny little rung of data that I can get? And so for us, it was doing the 75-person study on our own, no doctors, no investigators, just getting help from people. I mean, I rented a room in the East Bay, and I got the local meetup group to send me people as volunteers. Like, it just, if I'd done that 2 years previously, I wouldn't have wasted 2 years of my life. But as soon as you think about what's that next little bit that helps me get a little bit more credibility, that's the way to go. So that's my second piece of advice.
Gotcha. So you raised cash through VC. You also put in a lot of your own money, and I think you also got some grants or some funding through some contests you've won over the years. All the above.
So MedTech Accelerator for medical device people. Any of us local here in the Colorado and Denver area, really strongly recommend going after looking at EDIT grants, OEDIT, which is the Advanced Industries. It's an Advanced Industries grant designed to help bring high tech to Colorado. They were awesome for us. They gave us a grant right when we absolutely most needed it.
Very good. Good for you. So, okay, great. I mean, great job in raising cash in so many different ways.
Let me tell you my third bit of advice.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
This is the one that people won't realize until you do it.
Okay.
But basically, VCs, in my experience, don't like, the very best ones will give you feedback straight away of what they like and what they don't like. The very best ones.
Yeah.
We've been really lucky to have some of those in our existing investor pool. Founders Fund, Menlo, DreamIt, Health Tech Capital. They have been in that very top tier of awesome about telling us what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. When you get turned down by a VC, most will not tell you why. And I was told the myth of why that was. And the myth is that they don't want to piss off entrepreneurs that they might want to invest in later. It's totally not true.
Okay.
The reason is basic laziness. Well, not laziness is the wrong way, it's an unfair word. It's that they are so busy with so many people.
Right. They just
don't want to spend the time to tell you.
Gotcha.
And the problem is that as an entrepreneur, you need to know.
You need to know.
And I basically decided to have a mindset, and it took me a long time to learn this, but I decided I was going to have the mindset that if I spend an hour of my time pitching to you, then you don't owe me any money. You don't owe me anything except you owe me your honest opinion. And I can agree with that and then go figure out ways to fix it and then come back to you without wasting your time and mine. Or I can not agree with it, in which case I'm not going to come back to you. But either way, and I got to the stage of telling people, I only had to do this 4 or 5 times, but telling people, look, unless you tell me your honest feedback of exactly what you feel, there is no chance of me ever talking to you ever again on this business or a future one.
I love it.
Because why would I want an investor who's not going to help me out with an honest opinion?
That is such good advice right there. That is really
honestly,
good stuff.
It took me a while to get angry enough. I just did it ruthlessly. And my God, the stuff you learn. Because even the worst VCs have seen more deals than any entrepreneur ever will. So they know shit that you just don't know. And the best ones, an hour of their time is worth more than all of the money they could possibly put in. So and you're spending your time giving them your information. So yeah, that's my third piece. Just ruthlessly insist on getting feedback. You might not like it, but it'll always be worth it.
I love it. We should do an episode with you on the show to just talk about VC relationships. We could do a 2-hour episode just on that. So, how many employees, by the way, at this point?
We are now 14.
14 employees. Okay.
Yeah.
And you are living off the cash that you're raising, because it's not necessarily pre-revenue. It's not pre-revenue, so to speak, but I'm assuming you're burning through the cash you're raising or getting grants. So you have to be.
So I've lost you there. I've lost audio.
You there? Am I back?
Oh, now you're back again.
Okay. Let me just make a note of that time so that I can edit that real quick. I'm going to ask you, let me try that again so I can clip it good. So 14 employees. Now it's not pre-revenue because you have some revenue, but I'm assuming you're still not, you're not producing a profit or anything like that. It's still way too early for any of that. So you're still living off the cash you're raising. I'm assuming.
Yeah. So we're raising another round right now.
Okay. Okay. Very good.
It took me a while to realize that as a CEO, really, when you're a startup, your main job is to sell shares in your company. You're not selling your product until you're in profit. Once you're in profit, you're selling your thing.
That is,
or you're selling your thing. You're selling shares.
That's
and
so
you know,
true.
I've never been that good a salesman.
But you're a good storyteller, and you're very authentic, which I think helps with your sales. I'm guessing that's helped you raise some cash.
Well, thank you. The other thing that I'm not, the part of that I'm not good at is making it absolutely super simple and super clear. Like, I want to do everything. And most entrepreneurs are the same. They want to go after every opportunity that whatever it is they can do can help. And VCs just don't want to hear that. They want to hear the one simple story because they're asking themselves the question, what do I have to believe to believe this company is worth investing in? And if you give them 50 different options, and I still do this and I still get it wrong, they want to hear a simple story that they can go, okay, if I believe that people with fibromyalgia are going to buy this, then this company is worth investing in. They want to know one thing. They also want to know what other things could you do if that one thing doesn't work. But they don't want to hear about all the different options. They just want to know the one thing that if they believed it, their money is safe. Because they're always wrestling greed versus fear. Like,
Gotcha.
am I going to get money out of this, or am I going to lose money? And angels are even more extreme, because angels, the money they're giving you, they're making a choice between their kids' college fund and their retirement pot and putting money into you. A VC is making a different bet. A VC is making a bet of, okay, is this one of the 10 that I need to succeed out of every 10 I go into that is going to work? The VCs have a totally different risk profile from angels. Angels want to know that you're not going to lose what should be in their kids' college portfolio.
Right, it's because it's their money. It's not some fund they're managing.
Right. Whereas VCs want to know, do you have a 10% chance of being an epically large company?
And now, one more. I know we're way over time. I just want to ask just 2 more questions. What's your advice on not letting the cap table get too crazy with so many investors that pretty soon, because I've seen situations, right, where all of a sudden the CEO's entire job is either raising cash or dealing with people that have put in cash, and they don't have time to do anything else except for manage the board members and the investors.
I definitely haven't worked that one out. I mean, there was 2 things. One is that, so my cap table is large.
I'm sure.
And I know that I'm late in sending out a company update by the time I've got 2 or 3 people asking me, hey, what's going on? I just use it as I just use that as my oh crap, I need to get off my. I mean, you should do it every month or 2 months.
Yeah.
And then I'm just at the stage now where I'm making this someone else's responsibility to make sure I do it. But the other thing is that I haven't had any investor that I regret having taken money from.
Congratulations.
And I think that's part of the fact that, we're a device, we're slightly out there. You've got to give a bit of a crap about changing the world to invest in a device like ours. So it's basically been, put it this way, an arsehole repellent. We haven't got a single person that invested for us that I wouldn't want to have a beer with.
That's congratulations. I mean, that's a major
Well, I
accomplishment.
mean, really,
there.
That hasn't really been by choice. That's been more by good luck than good judgment.
Congratulations, my friend, on everything you've done up to get it to this point. I mean, really, what a story. And plus, you are such an inspiration. Your positive energy and attitude. I mean, damn, I'll just tell you, Richard, next time I'm complaining about the arthritis in my back, I'm going to slap myself for acting wimpy, right? I mean, come on.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, the one thing another thing I've learned is that everyone has their own problems.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter, it's how big they are. It's how big they are to you. I was in hospital with people with neck breaks, and I was just like, I just can't even imagine what life is like for them.
Yeah. Well,
and then I've got people in my life with other issues, and it's like, to them, that issue is as big as it gets. We all have them. I mean, I was epically privileged with education and support in my early years. And that's another thing that people forget about entrepreneurship is typically it's a middle class game. Because those of us that have parents or family that will look after us when things go wrong, we will take more risks. It takes a lot more guts to be, a minority or someone from a poorer background to do it. And they deserve every scrap of support they get. And I think, all of us that come from middle class backgrounds really have to be aware of the privilege we've come from, and that we haven't made it on our own merits. We made it on our own merits plus the luck of what we were brought into and the support. I mean, like the number of people that have helped me in my family, my friends. I write a diary every day, and in the last year I started making sure that every day I write one thing I'm grateful for. And then some days I'm just going through every call I have of like, oh my God, actually when I think about this, I'm really lucky to have that person in my life, that person. It's just like, there's the old saying of it takes a village to raise a kid. It takes a town of people to raise a small company.
Isn't that the truth?
People, from a middle class background, you are blessed.
You're right, my friend. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit Riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.